have a question, Coin.
Yep. Yeah, buddy.
Kind of previously, I've kind of come to the understanding that if we break a daily range, a daily level, we make a move to the next daily level, or an hourly level, break that, move down to the next hourly level. So is there any significance when it comes to this fib tool, the 25, the 50, the 75? So for example, if we break above the 50 EQ, are we then looking likely to hit the 75, or does that not matter?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. That's a great observation. And I would say so, yes. And it's like Queen really put it well, because how she was saying, these are definite points of interest, right? But does that mean that this is the end all be all, or the level you want to trade? No, of course not. But like I've said many times, is I use these the same way as I use trends, but I put a little bit more significance on these than I do trends. Is that I use them as like a magnifying glass, right? Like, where do I need to look for my trade? When I build out the story of like, this is happening on the daily, in my opinion, this on the 4 hour, this on the 1 hour, and the 15 and the 5. All right, I think that we're at a bottom on those things, and I want to take a long, so I'm going to use the 1 or the 3 or the 5 to get entry. That is kind of the I'm just trying to think of how to put it. All right, so anyways, I don't forgot where I was at, but let me erase this fella here. I do know where I was at before, though, with the fib tool. That Ben, you asked the question, right, about the traditional fib tool, right? And the reason I was telling you that I wouldn't call this using a fib tool. We're using the fib tool, but we're making it something completely different. So a traditional fib tool conscious trader is like this. It's got a lot more levels than iMark, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with the Fibonacci sequence, right?
Yeah.
So the Fibonacci sequence is something that's found in nature. It's repeating. It's really spooky, and I think I kind of refer to it as order and chaos, because everything in nature is chaotic, but it also has order to it as well. And that, in my opinion, is where like Fibonacci sequence comes into play, why we see it in everything from seashells to leaves to mathematical equations. And that's what I'm always referring to in charts, and how they're more math than they are cause and effect. So they are more about what happens back here and cause these levels to form than they are about people buying at these levels over here. It's the best way I can explain it is like the domino effects in my mind personally. So fib is the 0, the 0.236, 0.32, 0.5, 0.618, 786, 1, so on and so forth, right? And these levels do come into play a lot. They really can be important. Same as the quote unquote psychological levels that you hear a lot of people talk about. And there's also a lot of people that will kind of crap on those and be like, oh, it's so stupid. And it's not, because the self-fulfilling prophecy rule, it does have weight. I just wouldn't apply a significant amount of weight to it. You know, it's like we were talking about earlier, like Queen was saying, and that she put very well. This thing is one part, right? And we can't, there's no answer that's like, all right, where do I take a trade? Well, it depends. What are you looking for, right? Do you want 1% or 10%? Do you want to manage this trade all day for an hour, or 3 weeks? How much time do you have? How much money do you have? There's so many variables, and therein lies the problem, and why I believe, like, most people give up, other than the psychological aspect, is there's so many things to juggle, and it's not easy, and you're going to fail. We all fail a lot. I fail all the time. Like, everyone does. Anybody that tells you they don't, they're a damn liar. I mean, that's a fact. And that's why a lot of people don't put themselves out there. That's why they hide their personal information and this and that. You know what I mean? Like, they're not being honest about things. So the fib tool, and the way I use it, is solely to mark the starting point, the end point, and the 25, 50, and 75% points in a range, and a lot of people will just call a range this, they'll be like, oh, this is a range where, and they'll just kind of roughly mark it like, oh, this is a range here. We're going sideways. It's sideways consolidation. That is a range, but that's a very crude explanation to a range. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mark that on the right chart. Let me just swap it real fast. There we go. So that is a range, but it's a very crude explanation for a range. So there's infinite amount of ranges within that. Like I've said, a range is the simplest definition is the distance between 2 points. So if we have let me just delete this real fast. Delete that. So if we have brush, good, brush. So, like I said before, we have this low to this high, and then to that low, and then to this high, and then that, and that, and that, and then that. Those are all ranges, and those are terrible lines. All right, let me try to draw them again. It's because I'm kind of zoomed in. It's a lasing is what they call it. So these are all ranges, this low to this high, and then that high to that low, this low to that high, this high to that low, this low to that high, so on and so forth. Those are all ranges. And every one of these candles almost is a range inside of all of those. So it's infinite. You know what I mean? It's about finding the important ones, the ones that really matter, and the ones that line up with what you're looking for. If you're a scalper, you want a lot more acute information. You're not looking at the monthly and the weekly and the daily to plan your trades. Yeah, you want to look at them to see where they're at in their move, because that can be significant, and that's where we'll plan trades, and then all of a sudden we see this big dump or pump on a 1 or 5 minute. It's more times than not because we lost sight of those higher time frames and where they were at in their moves. And a lot of times it's because they hit one of those levels that I was talking about before, that 25, the 50, or the 75% point. And if they hit that highest point or lowest point, like they did, right? Let me reset this here and go to, I think it's a 15 minute. Yeah. So like they did right here, oh yeah, this thing's, it's trying to move up right here. I thought it was too, because remember when I pointed the arrows at all these points right here, there, and it swept. When I saw this sweep, I looked and planned a short in here, right? Because a sweep should create a new low, and we had to change the character right there. All right, so it did, and that sweep will more than likely hold, which is, you know, what I took. I took that short, and as soon as we broke that, like, I took profits, you know, and removed my risk. But because it didn't create a new major, like, relevant low, that tells me that there's weakness in the move, because like I said before, sweeps are, in my opinion, to test sentiment, to test where the retail traders are at, like, what, you know, where does the sentiment lie with them? Because the market makers, the big money guys, they can't do it all on their own. They can do most of it, but at the same time, they need the help of the retail traders to move things in the direction in which they want to move. They're not going to go against the grain, because that's just going to cause them to lose money. So that's why they do that. If you studied Wyckoff theory, that's what a spring is. You know, they do a spring, which is the same thing as a sweep. And it's just to test, what does that spring create? So it comes up springs or sweeps, and it comes down. Now, if that spring or sweep were to come up and then do this, bam, and then come down and then bam, yeah, like, we're definitely going down immediately, right? Like, short term, that's where we're headed. But because it didn't create any significant, especially a relevant low on even a 15-minute and up time frame, that tells me that it's really trying to move up higher. Now, what we really need to see is, let me go to the 4 real quick. Okay. Yeah, so we need to see if we can hold this little 4-hour uptrend. This is the level we need to gain right here.
Zoom in a bit, please, Corinne.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I got to get in the habit of that, y'all. I apologize. I'm trying to use 2 monitors. So sorry about that. I'm gonna figure this out. But anyways, so the 4-hour, so this is the level we really need to gain, and we should on the 4-hour, right? But like I said before, we can't lose sight of this. We can't lose sight of the fact that the daily range is from here to here, and we've almost reached that halfway point. So if we pull from there to there, we're real close. You know what I mean? Like, we're real close. Like I've said before, I've been saying it for, I swear, for like 2 months. I really feel that we're coming up to here or here. And then I said, we need to watch the legs of the moves from like the 4-hour and down to kind of determine if that's going to happen or not. And if we go to the 4-hour, no real significant relevant legs have been taken out, right? It's just higher, low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. Even this one right here, look at this little, you know, minor, like, fractal low. It's not taken out right there, which this is a breakup structure on a 15-minute or 1 hour right here. Probably, yeah, I'd probably say 15-minute, and then it's probably a change character on a 1 hour right there. And it doesn't even touch it. So, I mean, this is the area right here. That's what we need to watch. So I think we're trying to build a move up overall. this is really confirmed if we look at the weekly. Look at the weekly. We've had this massive move down, right? Like it's just boom, it's dump, 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 small little bounce, but nothing significant right here. This is nothing. And it's still dumping. And now we've been building this move higher. If we look at the wicks on the candles, so we have this one, it's a low, higher low, and then this wick breaks that one, but not this one, right? And then this one still only wicks, no candle closes. So, I mean, it's looking like I've said, I really have. I've said it for like 2 months that I think we're pulling back higher, but ultimately, I think we're still going down. I'd love for us not to be. That'd be great. Maybe some of my shit coins would, come back from a 99.9% loss. But hey, they were small, like long-term investments. I don't put a lot of crap. Yeah, I think like me and Mola were talking about last week, I still think that it's coming up to this area. I think it's coming between here and here. That's where I think it's headed. And then at that point, I think it'll continue to fall off. And like we've been talking about strong highs and strong lows, when a swing does its job, that makes it, strong. When it doesn't, it makes it weak. So we had this swing. So we had a swing high and created this swing low, which broke these lows. So that makes this swing high strong and should hold, right? And then this low created a high on lower time frames that broke these other highs. A lot of liquidity in there. So that also makes this a strong high. And that's what ultimately holds here. Okay. Oops. Let me just zoom in. So you can see it kind of comes down, that's a considerable amount. It doesn't look like it, but on the daily it is 10%. It comes down to that low right there. That's the EQ, which it kind of starts to respond to a little bit there. And then it hits that 25% point. I'm going to grab my fib tool just to show you, like, that's what I'm talking about. I'll have to change the template. Let's go settings, templates, and move this zoom crap there. Okay, there we go. And then look, see, comes down and then bam, bam, and then moves off. So that's what I mean, a conscious trader, about. Yes, these are important. They play a big part in the way I like trade and the way I view things. Do I like pull these and place a trade on that level? No, I don't. But I do pull them on every significant, especially relevant swing high and swing low on each time frame. And I find out the range, the box that I'm stuck in, and then I see how it's responding to each of those. That really helps me to develop my understanding of where I think it's going, where it is more probable that it's going. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
And and if it doesn't, like, or if you have an additional question, like, please do ask it, because I mean, that's, help maybe you help me see something that I don't see. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there's definitely no judgment here, man.